What is up, guys? It's your boy, Tony with the hat, and today we're going to be looking at day one of free agency, and I'm going to give one pro and one con of each team. All right, we're going to start this one off with the biggest free agency signing of yesterday, and that was Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to the Nets. I mean, did we expect anything differently? It was rumored that they were going to go there all along. KD confirmed it on his IG, and it looks to be a done deal. The Nets are no longer the laughingstock of the NBA. It's actually their big brothers, the New York Knicks, and we'll get to them in a little bit. Some of the pros for this team, besides KD and Kyrie Irving, is the role players that are there. They have Joe Harris, who's a lethal shooter, Dinwiddie, who's a good 6'6" backup PG, but can play the two spot, LeVert, who's a good all-around player, Garrett Temple, who's a great defender, Josh Allen and DeAndre Jordan, who are great rim protectors. Now moving on to the con, KD is out for most of the next season, and I don't know how him and Kyrie play together because they both want the ball in clutch moments, and they're both clutch, which is a good problem to have. But with KD sitting out a full season, Kyrie is going to feel like it's his team, which is why he wanted to leave Cleveland, and we saw what happened with that. But Kyrie is a good second option. If KD comes back the same, we could see a lot of ISO ball between the both of them. Not the offense that the Warriors run, which KD just fit in seamlessly. We also have seen KD play with the high usage point guard before, and we all know what happened there. Okay, next we're going to talk about the team that did a trade with the Nets, and that was the Golden State Warriors. They got something back for Kevin Durant. They didn't just lose him to free agency like OKC did, but they did get a player who could learn a ton from Steph and help them stay afloat this season as Clay is rehabbing. And I see a lot of people saying this doesn't make sense, but Clay can always slide to the three and Steph could really play the two or the one, and he's good off the ball, but they'll probably trade him, so it's still a plus that they got him. A con is that they got worse defensively. They had to give up Andre to get D'Lo, and say what you want, this man was a huge piece in their first title run. I mean, he was an MVP, and then the rest of their title runs after that. He also isn't a scrub at all. If he wasn't on the Golden State Warriors, he would have been a starter on most of other teams, and this definitely hurts them. Okay, next we have a team that knows all about dropping jaws in the free agency offseason, the Miami Heat. The Heat weren't even one of the teams in the talks to land one of the big free agents this offseason, and they missed the playoffs and they retired D-Wade, and there were talks about them moving some of the players that they had, but the Jimmy Butler addition was a plus. He's a good defender. He showed this past playoffs he's a clutch scorer, and he can handle the ball in high pressure moments. A con would be that their roster isn't the best right now. Whiteside will probably get moved. Dragic doesn't really seem like he wants to be there. I don't know the direction that the team is going in. Maybe shooting to land another star. In 2020 free agency, I just felt Philly was a better choice for Butler, but the Heat may be a fifth seed at best. So let's move on to the team that traded away Jimmy Butler, and that's the 76ers. A pro is that they gained an experienced player like Horford, who definitely will be able to pick up the slack Embiid doesn't want, and it may be weird playing them together on the floor, but I'm sure Al can adjust. They kept Tobias Harris. Harris averaged 18.2 points and 8 rebounds in 27 games with the 76ers. I really like Tobias, and his game does speak for itself. I think he shouldn't be such a journeyman at this point in his career. They also got Josh Richardson back in the Jimmy Butler trade, who is a shooter, and they're extending Ben Simmons. Hopefully, he will be able to extend his range this offseason as well. A con is that they lost JJ Redick, who is an 18 points per game scorer. He was also a 40% three-point shooter. They definitely are going to miss him, and I don't know why they didn't re-sign him. It was reported that he was comfortable in Philly. His family wanted to be in Philly. I'm guessing that they were anticipating signing all the players that they had and just didn't plan to re-sign him. I don't know what was wrong there, but I also think that they overpaid for Harris and Horford. But moving on to the next team, that's going to be the Celtics. A pro is that they added Kemba Walker. He averaged a career best 25 points per game. He shot 43% from the field and 35% from three, along with about 4.4 rebounds and 6 assists and 1.2 steals in about 35 minutes per night. And they added good young pieces through the draft. I really like Romeo Langford. Some will say Kemba is a lesser Kyrie Irving, but I think Kemba fits the mold of the Celtics. I don't think he comes in with that Kyrie ego, and I think he can help this young team win some games. A con is that they lost 2 players for nothing. I mean, they did get Kemba at the point guard position, so they addressed that, but they have a huge hole at the center spot. I personally felt them losing Al was worse than losing Kyrie because it will be hard to find a defender who stretches the floor like Horford and who's just willing to do the little things. Now moving on to the Hornets, they signed Terry Rozier with a respectable contract at 3 years, $58 million, and it will be a sign and trade, and the Hornets didn't lose Kemba for nothing. Rozier became a prime free agent candidate once his all-star peers at point guard had already chosen their destination. Terry averaged about 9 points per game on 38% shooting, but we all know he sacrificed a lot playing behind one of the best point guards in the league, Kyrie Irving. And we all saw what happened when Kyrie went out and how he stepped up. And so congrats to the Hornets on Scary Terry. He has no excuses to not be a beast this year. Akan, I really truly hope this isn't true, but it was reported that they didn't want to offer Kemba the max, and that is why he left. He did say that he would take a discount if they could bring in other players. And let's be honest, no one wants to play for the Hornets, and they owed Kemba the money after only making $12 million this past season. And 2 years ago, KCP was making $12 million with the Lakers, and Kemba Walker was making $12 million last year. Like, just look at that same pay comparison and look at the difference in the player and the numbers that they're putting up. So I really hope this isn't true, but if it is, I mean, I guess it worked out for both teams. Okay, next we're going to look at the Detroit Pistons. They signed D Rose to a 2-year deal, and this season Rose averaged 18 points per game on 48% shooting, and he shot a career best 37% from 3. He even showed signs of the old D Rose when he dropped 55 points. I think he fits in great with Blake and Drummond, and I'm pretty excited to see him get another shot at being the starting point guard for another franchise. Now, I'm definitely rooting for D Rose, and I think he can definitely have a breakout season this year, but a con is that he's probably the biggest acquisition that they'll get. No one really wants to play for Detroit, and they may sign some players who kind of have something to prove or just want to get like into a contract year. It's just not an attractable destination, but then again, it is only day one. So then moving on to the Indiana Pacers. I actually live in Indiana, and I've been seeing a lot of people going crazy. They think that they're going to have an amazing year. I've seen people on both sides. They like the new pieces that they got, and I've seen some that don't. But a pro is with Darren Collison retiring. I think them getting Malcolm Brogdon as a restricted free agent was a huge plus. Brogdon averaged 13 points per game with 5 rebounds and 3.4 assists during the 2019 NBA playoffs as the Bucks reached the Eastern Conference Finals. He was also Rookie of the Year, and the guy did dunk on LeBron and Kyrie in the same game as a rookie. So he isn't scared to play. He didn't play bad when he came back versus the Raptors in the playoffs. And I like them adding shooting with Jeremy Lamb. That's going to be a huge key when Oladipo is making a return next season. Jeremy Lamb averaged about 15.3 points per game and grabbed about 5.5 boards while shooting 35% from the three-point line. The Pacers have a bunch of decent pieces to surround Victor with, and I think that they're players that could give any team a problem when they play together. A con is that they lost Bogdan Bogdanovic to the Utah Jazz. When Victor went out, he really stepped up and became a 20 points plus scorer per game. They also lost Thaddeus Young, which he was a glue guy for them in my opinion, but there's still time to fill that spot. We're going to look at the Utah Jazz. They are a serious threat in the Western Conference. They added Mike Conley, who's a good point guard and a good defender, and who is exactly what they needed at that spot. And they added Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is no scrub and the type of player that fits in with that system. He finished the year averaging 18 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 2 assists while shooting 42% from 3 range and 49% overall. They're going to be a scary team once they get clicking together, and they could shock a lot of people this season. A con is that they were set up to get Thaddeus Young and they didn't, so they'll probably keep Favors if they don't trade him. I feel Young gives them more on the defensive end and is a better stretch four than Derek Favors. He just really isn't what they need at that spot, and I felt Young would have been the perfect replacement. Next up, we're going to talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. They extended Damian Lillard's contract, which is great because Portland has had a hard time keeping superstars for various reasons, whether that be injuries or them leaving in free agency. But Lillard has shown that he wants to spend his whole career there, and he is great and he deserves the money that he's getting. A con is that they won't be able to sign any noteworthy free agents with them not having a lot of cap space. It looks like they won't be bringing back Aminu or Cantor. They did resign Rodney Hood, but I feel Portland is one solid player away from being a serious threat in the West. But something they really lack is defense, and it showed in the Western Conference Finals. So I'm hoping going forward that they will look at more defensive players. Next, we're going to be looking at the San Antonio Spurs. They did get Damari Carroll and they re-signed Rudy Gay. He played really well for them this past season and was really good from three. His role will probably increase as they continue to move forward after trading away Kawhi. But I thought Rudy Gay was heading towards retirement, but the magical Spurs training staff let him use that fountain of youth that they have down there, and it's rejuvenated his career. A con is that they don't have any meetings set up with big-time free agents. They were never in the running for many of them, but I also didn't think they were in the running for LaMarcus Aldridge, and they ended up with him. The next team we're going to look at is the Sacramento Kings. They re-signed Harrison Barnes. They're adding Trevor Ariza and the defensive anchor and Dwayne Dedmon. This was a team who almost beat out the Clippers for the 8th spot in the playoffs. They have a great young core, and them adding vets only helps the young core grow to be more mature, and they will be an exciting / a sleeper team to watch in the West. A con, I think they overpaid for Corey Joseph at 3 years, $37 million. Overall, he's a career average of 7 points, 2.6 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. Nothing too fancy. And I don't think he fits in with their team. And they did something similar to this a while back when they signed Yogi Ferrell, George Hill, while drafting Fox. And now they have Kyle Guy, Joseph, Fox, Frank Mason, and all these point guards on one team. So I don't know what they're trying to do there.